It's the Fellowship of the Geek Show, a weekly podcast about comics, the comic book industry, and other geek pop culture. Music courtesy of Manny the Martyr. And now, on with the show! Hey everybody, it's the Fellowship of Geeks podcast. My name is Thomas Chick, and joining me for this episode is Mike Marlowe.
Hey gang.
Les Webster.
Hello all.
And Liz Newman.
Hello everybody.
How are you guys doing?
Oh, like I'm coming out of therapy.
We're going in, I don't know.
I probably
I
need
feel
more.
like I need to go in.
Right.
Yeah.
Probably need more or whatever it is. Either way.
Hope everybody out there is doing okay. So what's been going on in your corner of the galaxy?
Well, I'm still doing prep work for October. It's one of those things where part of me wants to start going ahead and plugging and talking about stuff, but I know it's way early for that. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think traditionally we've kind of kept it a secret, right? Kind of what the theme's going to be until like the week before.
Well, I mean, we can, we're here at the end of August. We can probably start letting out some hints and suggestions and all that the next couple of weeks, if that's something y'all want to do. I'm not going to argue.
And if it doesn't pan out, we can just edit the show and tell them they were dreaming. We never said that.
Well, that's a little meta, but okay. I will throw this out here. We are going to be participating in a collaborative thing with some other podcasts and other creatives, and it is called All the Horror. If you want to, they're already starting to plug it on Twitter. So if you go on Twitter and search for hashtag All the Horror, you will start seeing some cool and interesting stuff going down with just a veritable laundry list of podcasts, and there are some writers and some bloggers and some artists involved, and it's going to be a hoot. And we are participating, and it's going to be fun.
That sounds fun.
Yeah, I'm ready for it, and I'm ready for our horror month. This is our fourth year of doing it, fourth.
At least third. Maybe.
At least third. Yeah.
How long have we been doing this? I don't even know.
We started in 2016.
I think it's third.
So, okay.
I think.
So okay.
Yeah, we started. What did we?
What? Yeah.
Holy crap! We are.
So this is actually
This will be my
This is the fourth
second.
one.
Yeah.
Oh, shit, we have this. Will be the fourth time then.
This will be the fourth. And these always been a blast. No matter which direction we kind of direct the theme to, it's always been kind of fun discussion. Well, they're always fun discussions, but October seems to be a kind of a special time. So
yeah. we all seem to have our own little preferences toward October and Halloween and all of that.
Yep, we do. It's like my Christmas.
Mm-hmm. It's better than Christmas. There's no family involved.
Yeah.
Oh,
sure.
Did I say that out loud? Sorry. It's all right.
Well,
none of my family listens anyway, so we're fine.
That's what I was saying. They don't listen, so they're not going to be offended. So
hell no, I can't even get y'all to listen. Jeez.
See, I have family that listens.
Oh. Hi, Liz's
Bree.
family. Oh, that's right. You do have family. Remember you telling us that.
Yeah, and she comes to our meetups every once in a while, too.
Cool.
Yep. I'm the cool aunt. She hasn't figured out that I'm not cool yet.
Well, you better quit telling her on the show then. Jeez.
Oh, she's embarrassing me.
pay no attention to the woman behind the curtain.
Oh, foreshadowing.
Even five shadowing.
All right.
Well, I watched some movies this week that I've really, 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 really been looking forward to.
Really?
Really, really. A long time ago, like 10 years ago, Nickelodeon had the best cartoon ever, Invader Zim. My favorite was Gurr. I think if I could pull something out of animation life and have it for my real life, it would be Gurr. So after all this long wait, Invader Zim didn't really find its audience until after it was canceled. And it's kind of funny because Johan, I'm sorry if I mispronounced his name, he really didn't want to do Invader Zim. I mean, he was used to writing like Johnny the Homicidal Maniac and stuff, and he was like, you know what? I'm tired of being rejected. I'm going to do the most absurd, stupidest ideal they've ever heard. And they approved it. And it was Invader Zim. So he's never really cared for it. He's always kind of self-hated on Invader Zim. So any thoughts of any kind of afterlife for this show was like next to nothing, because he would ban you on Twitter for even mentioning Invader Zim.
Oh, damn.
Yeah,
Wow.
I mean, that's how bad he hated that show. Plus, it kind of sucks, like I said, that it became kind of like this pulp icon after the fact. It was like, why couldn't y'all watch the show when it was on TV? You know, but now you guys all like it when you can't watch it anymore, and I can't get royalties. So he, you know, but Friday the 16th, they released a movie on Netflix, and it totally picks up from where it left off 10 years ago. And I guess I can say this because it's been on the trailer. Zim has been hiding in the toilet for 10 years.
Okay.
Yes.
And if that doesn't give you a sense of this show, then nothing will, really.
Right. But it's total. I mean, if you're a fan of the show, you will love this movie. It's Invader Zim, Enter the Florpus. I had problems finding it on Netflix. Most of the time, the new stuff they throw at you, like, hey, this just came out, I couldn't find that. Even when I searched Zim, it didn't pull it up. But if you search Enter the Florpus, it will definitely all pull up. But it, you know, it's a good movie. But also, kickback from childhood, Rocko's Modern Life has a reboot on Netflix now. And it's kind of cool because, you know, I always thought that Rocko was a little ahead of their time, you know, with some of the adult topics they would handle on the show and, you know, that kind of thing. And this movie made no exception to that. Mr. Bighead that lives next door to Rocko, he's looking for a son so they can redo a TV show. Well, Rocko goes out and finds out that his son is no longer his son, it's his daughter. And Mr. Bighead, of course, I don't want change, I don't understand this. And so it's kind of cool because it kind of gives, you know, I'm sure it's not completely the same way, and I can't even begin to understand how it would be to come out to your parents, but it kind of gives that struggle of it's not really your kid you're having a problem with, it's the change. You know, I had a son, but now I have a daughter. So it was kind of neat the way that they handled this topic and put it in a delicate way to where it wasn't trampling all over people's rights and stuff, you know. So if you enjoyed the movie or the TV show of either one of those, Netflix has got them both on there, and a lot of people have said some really good things about them. So I enjoyed them.
Well, there you
That's
go.
interesting.
Yep. Like I said, there. I don't know if you guys would like Zim, but you might like Rocko. They said he's always been a little, like in one point he calls this lady and he's like, what are you wearing? And he's like, no, I don't have time for that. So it, you know, it's always hinted at the adult topics, but never went over the line to where children are like, oh, he called a porn line, you know. So.
And there was a half-hour show of that.
Dang.
Right. Well, and it's kind of interesting because a lot of the people who work on SpongeBob did voices for Rocco.
Yes.
So to hear, you know, Kenny doing Rocco instead of SpongeBob, it's kind of like, whoa. That's weird, but I'm not sure. Did Hildenberg do Rocco too? I'm not sure if he wrote that like he did SpongeBob or not. I know it was a lot of the same creatives together.
Not sure either.
But I think it was another one that didn't really find its footing until it was gone, and people are like, hey, I liked that, you know.
Yeah, why'd you take it away?
Yeah. Kind of like Firefly, because you people weren't watching it when it was on.
Let's don't bring that up, jeez.
Yeah. Two greats that were cut short. And it's kind of weird because if you want to watch the back episodes of Invader Zim, it's on Hulu. So it seems like...
Dang.
Yeah. Kind of crazy, but...
So they're on all the time.
Yep.
Okay. Les?
I don't know how to answer that, but I read the collection DC did a couple of years ago for Two-Face and the various prize stories of the character, because it was the 75th annual last year or the year before. So that's been an interesting read, and how they've morphed the character throughout.
Because wasn't his name originally Kent? Harvey
Yes.
Kent?
Harvey Kent.
Ooh.
Which is too close to Clark.
Yeah. Clark's mixed up brother.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see kind of the progression there of how they created him and all that, and
Yeah.
where and how it's like you said, morphed over the years. That would be interesting to see.
Unfortunately, I don't really I have a big bag of nothing. I've actually been kind of doing a lot of the behind the scenes stuff, working on a lot of fellowship stuff, but really hadn't had, and then personal stuff going on as well, so I hadn't really had a lot of time to kick back and read, so I do apologize for that. Okay, before we get into this week's discussion, I do want to talk about our monthly meet and gab. The next one's going to be Saturday, September 14th. As usual, it'll be at located at Wing City, which is at 1456 Beltline Road, Suite 120, and that's in Garland. It's 75044. So if you live in the Dallas-Fort Worth area and want to come hang out with us and discuss all things geek-related, by all means, you can check out the information on our website. That's www.thefellowshipofthegeeks.net, and you just click on the events tab, and I'll give you all the information. We also have a Facebook event set up, and so if you're following us on Facebook, you can obviously check it out there, or if you go to the website, there is a link to the Facebook event as well. This is going to be our 9th. We started the first year, and it's been fun. It's kind of a nice chance to get out and talk to you guys, have some good food, and just have a great time. It's always a fun time to kind of hang out with everybody and just discuss what's ever going on in comics or movies or TV or whatever else. So come hang out with us. Okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Please do.
Okay. For this week's discussion, we are talking about another 80th anniversary. And we've been having a lot of these this year. And the particular subject of our focus is a classic movie that's based on one of a series of books that was written by L. Frank Baum. And the movie is The Wizard of Oz. And you guys have had to have seen the movie because I know at one time it was shown 3 or 4 times a year and two or 3 times during that particular time. It was played a lot, and it's kind of it's an incredible movie. It's incredible looking movie. It's some nice music, some nice musical performances, and of course a classic story. And so well casted, so well put together. It's just a enjoyable film. So we wanted to take some time and recognize the anniversary and kind of discuss this classic film. Some say it's one of the best films ever put together. It did not win the Academy Award that year. I believe it went to Gone with the Wind, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
right?
Gone with the Wind beat it out.
Yeah.
Which is also widely considered to be one of the greatest movies of all time. So,
Yeah. But it did win Best Original Song for Over the Rainbow.
It won Best Score, too.
Yep. So, without further ado, I am opening the floor.
This, for me, will always be one of those movies that I'll hold close to my heart, along with Alice in Wonderland. Those two they're my favorites. But I think with The Wizard of Oz, it was kind of it was a woman killing for shoes.
Oh, God.
Wow.
How was that different from today?
We went there quick, didn't we? Holy cow.
And I would like to point out that it was the female of the group that made that comment, so no letters and emails to us.
Yeah, don't add us.
Well, I've been there, For a good pair of shoes that fit, and if you click them, they transport you where you want to go. I mean, I'd kill the witch, too.
Yeah, but dropping a house on her, that's a little much.
But that wasn't her fault.
Seems
She wasn't driving the house. The tornado was. She just got a good pair of shoes out of it.
But the realtor was happy.
Right. These prices are upside down. But yeah.
Wow.
And
How obscure is that?
I've noticed, though, when you watch the original version, of course, you've got the flying monkeys, you've got the forest they go through. When they play it later on TV, it seems like a lot of those parts are cut out, to where I had made a comment before about a flying monkey, and people were like, what? It's like, you're kidding me. It's Wizard of Oz. You've seen it. But see,
Stephen Rogers got the reference.
Even if you've never seen the actual movie, you know the story. Zenescope, how many wonderful stories have we read that are based on the Wizard of Oz, I would have to agree that it was the best movie. I liked Gone with the Wind, but I think the Wizard of Oz kind of let us out there to believe, and realize things aren't always as they seem, and you may think you're stupid, but in the end you're really smart. You know, you may think you have no heart, but at the end you really do. And it's all themselves. It wasn't any magic that made them believe in themselves. It was themselves, you know, and the power of friendship. And that there's always somebody behind a curtain pulling the strings that nobody sees. Learned that early.
That may be the darkest point of all, too. But anyway.
I don't know how they could have made it better. I really don't.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty good movie.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to decide how much of a stretch it is to say something like this, but it's probably, I mean, in terms of movies, it is almost certainly my introduction to fantasy. Now, granted, I was never big on musicals, but this was a pretty damn wild fantasy flick.
Yeah.
And they showed it a lot on TV. And I had just spotted that it was first shown on TV in 1956. So this is like one of the first movies, big, huge, successful movies to be shown on TV. So, and they have certainly not held back on showing it over and over again over time. It's actually probably been a while since it's been on now, but there are so many other ways now you can watch stuff that it wouldn't really mean much anymore. But this is a movie I have seen a lot of times, and I always seem to get caught up in it when I start watching it. Kind of wherever I pick it up, I can just get caught up in it.
Yep. And you know exactly where it's at.
You know exactly where she's going next.
And I remember when I was a kid, I'm wanting to say maybe middle school, Michael Jackson redid it with, what was it, The Wiz of Oz?
The Wiz.
It's called The Wiz.
The Wiz, yeah, with Diana Ross and
Nipsey Russell.
Yeah, that was pretty amazing too, and pretty popular for our time. But see, I think that's one of the things. It's timeless. You can tell this story in any time and any place, and it's relevant and it fits. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Although Zooey Deschanel on Sci-Fi did The Tin Man, I didn't like that one too much. That one didn't fit.
Didn't watch that.
You didn't miss. I don't think it made it even all season. I think they cut it short because it was. And I like Zooey Deschanel, you know, but yeah, it was pretty bad.
But it was just a single episode.
Was it? I thought it was like maybe it was a mini series then.
Yeah.
It was like their TV movie type thing.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you that for me, I liked it a hell of a lot more than I did The Wiz.
Oh, yeah? See, I was a big Michael Jackson fan, though. So he could have sang the phone book, and I would have been like, yes! It's Michael Jackson!
And that's all well and good, but I have seen the stage play.
Ooh.
And I grew to dislike it because every year they would either have Annie as one of their plays or The Wiz. And I'm getting real tired of these two. Please bring me something different.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed the movie. Yes, in 1956, I remember when it was on because I begged Mom and Dad to let me stay home from the Christmas practice every year. Oh, I don't want to go. I want to stay for the Wiz, or for the Wizard of Oz. Thank God it wasn't the Wiz. And they said, nope, you're going to church. You're going to go practice. And they said, it'll be on when you get back. My parents lied. It was always off by the time.
Oh, man.
And it was like, oh, it just finished 10 minutes ago. What? But it was, at that time, you think about it, this was the first noticing of color in a movie. This is where, when she opened the house door in Munchkinland, and it was color, people were shocked. Because, oh my gosh, this is something new. This was the first real touch of color to film.
Yep. Technicolor.
And granted, there were times that it was scary as can be. But even, for a 6-year-old kid, you still fought through it and loved every minute of it. I still do. Yeah. I try to watch it when it is on. Hopefully it's on one of the pay-per-view channels, because I don't want to sit through Wizard of Oz 4 hours long. Yeah, it's about 2.5 hours long, and then you've got car commercials, beer commercials, Frito commercials, insurance commercials, and that just drags it down. But this is one of my favorites, and yeah, it is a musical, but this was actually my introduction to musicals, and I enjoy them quite well now. But this was something new. L. Frank Baum wrote this in 1900, if I remember, mm-hmm. and tried to get a production of it at one time, which failed. But he was trying for a stage play, if I recall. And personally, when I was in Las Vegas one time, one of his grandchildren was there signing copies of the reprints of his book. It was kind of cool. I got to go shake the man's hand, which was kind of fun. But
that's cool.
This is a champion movie as far as I'm concerned. You can't miss on this movie. Even some of the other parts of it were pretty cool. The Return to Oz and a couple of others. And to me, Tin Man was a really good story. But
he's okay.
One of those agree to disagree moments.
You can have your opinions.
Right.
I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, what doesn't get mentioned much, and I feel like I'm almost jumping ahead here, but there was a series of movies starting in 1910, some silent films. So this was not the first version of this movie. It might have been, it looks like the fourth. And I want to say I've seen the 1910 one, The Wonderful Wizard of Oz. I forget where. It's been a while, but it's
interesting. It sounds like something like TMC would do or something,
Yeah.
And then play the more popular version.
Yeah, I don't know if they still do, but they used to have, I think it was Sunday nights at like I want to say midnight Eastern. They had like a silent movie theater thing that they did, and
I think they still do.
That's
Yeah.
probably where I saw it.
Hmm.
Yeah, I've always kind of been a sucker for silent movies for some reason. It's just cool.
Yeah. To be able to tell a story and not say a word.
Mm-hmm. Oh well, they're usually yapping away, but you can't hear anything.
Right. Little clips of in between.
Yeah, throw little dialogue cards up in there. Yeah, it's an interesting way to have to tell the story. That's for sure. In a way, it's not unlike comics in its own way.
Yeah.
You're getting some visuals, and then you get some words, and then you get some visuals, and you get some words.
True.
I enjoy this film. I remember seeing it when I was very young, and it just has a little bit of everything. There's a little action. There's some humor. You got song and dance. I already mentioned the colors. The colors are so impressive, especially when you compare that to the open of the film and the closing of the film is taken in Kansas, and it's black and white, so that really just kind of just jolts you when she opens the door to leave the house after the house settles for the tornado, and she sees this yellow brick road and then these houses, because she's in Munchkin land and all that. It kind of just doubles the impact, the visual impact.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was a brilliant choice to do that, and it's just a classic story. It's a nice little moral that because you figure the whole thing of what Scarecrow wanting the brain, Tin Man wanting the heart, and the Lion wanting the courage, but they had him. They had it the entire time.
Spoiler.
Spoiler.
Kidding.
But it's just a wonderful cast.
Yes.
Although part of me still would like to see seeing Buddy Ebsen as the Tin Man, and there was footage, but that has been lost over the years, unfortunately. So all there is just pictures from them doing the makeup tests, and you just kind of wonder how his career would have been if he had actually been able to complete the role, but he couldn't because he had a reaction to the makeup.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which was not the only casting issue in this movie either. I had heard some stories about, honestly, about the casting of Judy Garland.
Yeah.
She was like their absolute last choice for this role.
She was too old.
She was too old.
Yeah.
They wanted Shirley Temple, but couldn't do it. And they wanted some other people, and they couldn't do it. And so they ended up just basically settling for Judy Garland. And my understanding is that they really kind of made sure she understood that the whole way through the process.
Mm-hmm.
And she was not treated well at all in any of this.
Well, and they made her wear a corset to bind her boobs because it's supposed to be a 12-year-old girl. And I believe at the time Judy Garland was, 16?
Yeah,
17?
16.
So, at that point, a woman's finding her curves in every place. And I couldn't imagine 12-hour days with this corset binding my boobs down to my chest,
Oh, and it goes further than that. The studio was constantly on her for her weight.
Yeah.
Now, keep in mind, she was like 4'11" or something like that. She was a really just not a tall person. And they rode her ass hard about about her weight. And so they basically like had her on a liquid diet through most of this. And this was
Wow.
not a quick shoot either. I mean, they used to crank movies out. They used to shoot a movie every couple of weeks most of the time. This was a 6-month shoot.
Wow.
And there was like 6 days a week, and we're talking like days running from like 12 to 16 hours.
Yeah.
Just absolutely wearing all
That's
of these
horrible.
people down. And yeah, they're constantly abusing her over her weight through this whole process. And it's, oh man, it's a rough story.
Well, and I'd also heard rumor, of course, that to get her with the doughy eye look all through the movie, that they kept on drugs the whole time
Drugs.
too.
Well, and that
You know?
actually, some of that was tied to the weight thing too, because they'd pump her up on speed to burn calories. And
Yeah.
so then by the time you're pumping amphetamines into somebody all day long, you then have to start giving them something to help them sleep. And so it's just this constant cycle of drugs jacking her up and winding her down all the time. It's no wonder she turned into a junkie later in life, you know.
Right. Yeah.
It's rough.
That is rough.
As far as their filming goes, I would like to know how they did the transfer of Dorothy opening the door into Munchkinland, because they maintained the black and white of her in the house until she opened that door. And everything outside was in color. How did they film that?
The easy answer, that would be my guess, not being a film student or anything, is honestly you film the whole thing in color and you erase the color out of the inside of the house off the film.
There
I
was.
mean, all of the black and white part that was shot, they ended up overlaying with sepia tones anyway. So effectively, they're color in the movie, even the black and white parts. It wouldn't be. I mean, it was a pretty quick transition. I mean, it was only a couple of seconds. It wouldn't be that big a deal to just go through for every cell in that what's probably a 3 or 4 second transition with honestly a pencil eraser and just erase the color off of it.
Okay.
That's my guess. That to me that would be the first way I would go, because it would be easy. It would be a whole lot easier than painting the color onto the whole rest of the shot.
You're probably right.
Well, that's viable.
Yeah, I can't remember. I was trying to look through my notes because somewhere they mentioned there's a technique that had to be used to film this movie that way. I wish I could find that.
Oh yeah, what I was just reading was that part of the deal was to keep the lighting had to be bright to a disturbing degree.
Right.
And so they've just got floodlights on all of the parts of the set. And so apparently it got kind of warm in there.
Yeah.
And poor Bert Lahr, I mean, holy shit. He's wearing that lion costume the whole time.
Right.
They were talking. He's another one that they were talking about weight problems with, because he was losing weight like you wouldn't believe, just sweating it into that suit. And they basically have to clean it and dry it every night in the whatever handful of hours they had overnight, because like I said, they're doing 12 to 16 hour days shoots. Ay.
Man.
Mm-hmm. It's a little weird to take a movie that we obviously all love so much and pick it apart in this level of detail. It's kind of it's cool to know some of the little trivial facts about it, but it's also like, oh man, this is, I mean, how much are we ruining the magic for this for ourselves? You know? In a way, I guess it kind of makes you appreciate the end result a little more, to see how much work they put into it and how hard it was on them. I hope so, anyway. It does for me.
Okay, kind of backtracking a little bit, and of course, you got to take this with a grain of salt, since this is Wikipedia, that according to this, the opening and closing credits as well as the Kansas sequence were filmed in black and white and colored in sepia tone process. So it was actually filmed in black and white. Okay.
Technicolored?
Yeah, that was.
Well,
yeah,
that was a different set of cameras.
Right.
Right. So they're just splicing some black and white sections into the Technicolor version. But yeah, they're overlaying sepia tones on it just to kind of get that. I hesitate to try to describe the feel because I'm sure it's going to have a different effect for everybody, but it kind of feels kind of old-fashioned and bland in its own way, and kind of even almost dirty a little bit. I mean, that whole farm life thing. I think they played it up a bit. Whether they did that on purpose or not, I don't know, but I imagine it made the transitions easier too.
Yeah.
And you were talking. You're right about the being hot. It said the set would be over 100 degrees.
Can you imagine, like, tomorrow walking outside in a lion suit?
No. Absolutely not. Yeah, all day long.
All day long.
All day long. It's going to be 102 degrees out there tomorrow. And yeah, doing it all day long. For like sun up to sundown, like 14 hours.
Yeah, and not just standing there, but like moving around and singing and stuff.
Running around and jumping up and down like a jackass, right? Exactly.
And according to this, it took as many as 12 takes to have Toto run alongside the actors as he skipped down the yellow brick road.
Right, till the goddamn dog got it right, basically. Yeah. Yeah, doing it over and over again because the little dog
doesn't know what the hell it's supposed to be doing.
You can't get that dog going in the right direction.
Because we can't give the dog drugs.
Right. Well, you say that.
We tried.
This was 1938, man. I bet we could give the damn dog drugs.
Oh man.
And this was filmed in a country where they were still pumping their soldiers full of amphetamines. I mean, come on.
True. And one thing cool, I didn't know if you guys knew or not, but if you take the original movie and
I know where you're going with this.
Yeah, I do too.
We've heard this before.
And Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon, and you start that right as the lion roars, it like links perfectly through the movie. I mean, of course, turn the sound down for the movie and just listen to the music, and it like tells a whole different story. I mean, whole different story. So,
have you done this?
Yeah.
I may.
No, I'm actually.
I've done this.
I would consider doing it. I've never done it before. I've heard about it. I've just never done it.
Yeah, everybody talks about it, but I don't know if I don't know of anybody who's actually said, yeah, I have done that, and yes, it works. It's always been told. Well, yeah, if you do that, I'm like, okay, yeah, get back to me when you actually do that. Let me see, because to me, it's kind of
I've done that.
Urban legend.
No. It's not. It does work. Now, the album is not as long as the movie is,
right.
though.
It's going to end before.
It does end before it. But
can you just start The Wall after that and have it?
Yeah, there you go.
That would be awesome.
But, yeah, I mean, in a non-sober state, Pink Floyd has like a lot of different stuff going on in the music. I mean, totally.
They do when you're sober too. You just don't necessarily notice it the same way.
Right. So when you link this up, and like I said, their albums tell their own story anyways. I mean, The Wall was just kind of like what all of us saw when we listened to that anyways. So, but when, like I said, it does tell a different story, and it was pretty cool. It did seem to fit. It's been a while, but to me, it did seem to fit the music at the time. It was just kind of one of those, you're like, wow. Huh.
The colors?
Colors, the sounds, just
you can taste
all
the
of
colors.
it. Yeah, I mean,
Taste
the rainbow.
That was disturbing. Anyway.
Yeah, my best friend's older brother, he was like really big into Pink Floyd. And him and his friends were the ones who always thought it would be like, hey, I wonder what they'd act like if they were drunk. So, they're the ones who actually showed us that. But he's also the one who taught me how to appreciate things like Pink Floyd. Because it was, got to listen to it deeper than just the music.
Yes.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, it's not something you're going to pick up just on the radio.
No.
You've actually got to sit down. It's not something you can just listen in the background. It doesn't work that way.
Yep.
You have to concentrate.
You have to listen
You have
to
to
the
listen
music.
to it.
Yep.
Yep. That's true of progressive rock in general, though.
And I think with like Pink Floyd, though, he always tried to tell you a story through one song, and he delivered really well. I've never been really moved by music, and people may laugh, but Skinny Puppy, they're kind of the same way. They've got so much more going on behind just the music that it's like, oh my God, how did I miss this? I never thought I would compare Skinny Puppy to Pink Floyd.
I don't think anybody else ever thought it would either.
But yeah, like I said, it's pretty cool. If you like Pink Floyd, it's something to try.
I have to check that out sometime.
Yeah.
Because I do like Pink Floyd. I own the Wall movie, so.
I thought that one was pretty interesting too.
Oh yeah.
And I thought for the longest time, his name was Pink Floyd.
Well, in the movie, his name is.
Yeah. But I mean the guy.
No, it's not. Yeah, it's just a band name. They just made it up. They actually, when they started out, they were kind of a psychedelic band. So just random words strung together was kind of the name. And yeah.
Yeah. Like their song, groovy, furry creatures grooving in a cave because it's cool. Yeah. That's the name of the song. It's pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I had to explain to a friend of mine that the farmhands that played the three majors that Dorothy found in Oz had names that related to their Oz characters. And they looked at me like I'd grown a third head or something. I don't know.
Well, the second one tends to throw people off, man. I'm just saying.
Well, that's true. But I thank it because then I look like the amazing two-headed man. Let's see, you had Hunk, who was the Scarecrow.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to remember the other two.
Hickory was the Tin Man.
Hickory was the Tin Man.
And Zeke was the Cowardly Lion.
Right.
Yep. A lot of people don't pay that much attention. I mean, they don't, their names only get mentioned like once.
Yeah.
So it's
yes.
you really have to be watching closely to kind of get that. But yeah, some of us do. Yeah. If you want to jump back to casting for a minute, another interesting deal was Margaret Hamilton. She was another last-minute replacement for someone, because the person they had for the Wicked Witch was backed out at the last minute for some reason. I don't remember what I saw. I don't remember what I read 10 minutes ago. But yeah, and then she goes on. I mean, in a sense, from what I understand, she did an impressive job of not letting that role ruin her career. Because,
Sure.
I mean, think about it. I mean, she was a very much larger than life villain for this movie. I mean, and Dorothy everything was geared towards Dorothy being this sweet, lovable girl, and the Wicked Witch was everything that Dorothy wasn't. And I mean, all the way down to the green skin and just the mannerisms. I mean, she obviously, clearly was an amazing actor to be able to just throw yourself into it like that. And then, I mean, people walked up to her in the street afterwards for years. And, I mean, just hated her.
Yes.
And ultimately, was it Mr. Rogers? She went on Mr. Rogers, I believe, later, like just like 20 years later. I mean, obviously, this is 20 or 30 years later. And so Mr. Rogers brought her on and was like, "Well, we'll just explain it." And they sat there and talked about it, like on the show, and how it was just a role I was playing. I'm not like that at all. And she's apparently a really nice lady anyway. So, yeah, it's quite a story, really. I don't tell it particularly well, but yeah.
Well, and the thing is, yeah, you talk about that, and it's not something she really ever talked about or did anything again until a Paul Lynde Halloween special in the mid-70s. She did a sketch with him, and at one point she turned into the witch, and it was like the first time she's done that since the original filming.
Yeah, in like 40 years or something.
Close to 40 years, and you go, wow, that's that's kind of amazing.
Right. I mean, but why would she ever want to? Well, one,
right.
Why would she go back to that anyway?
Right.
Cosplay wasn't then what it is now. So
right.
Dressing up like any character would be, it's a little different back then. But yeah, I mean, it was a role she was vilified for, primarily because she did such a damn good job at it. But yeah, I mean,
she was an established actress.
Yes. Oh yeah, she was a well-known. I mean, that's how they got her. Was basically she was a character actor. The studios kept her around because she could pretty much do anything, and so she got dragged in at the last minute to do this role.
Apparently, it was 3 days before filming started.
Yeah. Because of one of a laundry list of casting issues. I mean, honestly, they even had issues with the director.
Yeah.
I mean, they swapped out directors at least once. Twice. They swapped out directors twice.
And as far as Margaret Hamilton goes, one of the more memorable roles she had outside of this one was her singing the national anthem at the beginning of Brewster McCloud, a Robert Altman movie. And it was such a funny scene to have her do this. And no, she was not portraying the Wicked Witch, but she was hysterical in this, and made the start of that movie memorable. So, if you get the chance, just watch the opening of Brewster McCloud, director that gave you MASH.
Yeah. And a lot of other stuff that people have actually heard of.
Yes.
Yes, I mean, she worked several movies a year for a long time. So it didn't actually destroy her career, but...
Oh, no.
But
no.
It made her life a little interesting from time to time.
And apparently W.C. Fields was going to be the wizard.
Yes.
And I can kind of see that.
but apparently it was he didn't due to finances.
They couldn't afford him?
Well, it says that according to this, about the studio ran out of patience after protracted haggling over Field's fee. So they couldn't come up. Apparently, they couldn't come up with a agreed price for him to do the role.
But to me, that would have been a miscast.
Yeah.
Because
go ahead.
I was just going to say that Frank Morgan gives you empathy. He exhibits caring, and I don't see Fields giving caring to Dorothy like Fields does.
And it was originally turned down by Ed Wynn, which I could totally see him doing that. I could see Ed Wynn doing the Wizard as well, but hey, oh well. Yeah, I mean, Frank Morgan did a great job.
And he was an established actor at that time also.
Mm-hmm.
Well, all in all, it's a fantastic film. It's just such a great adventure.
It is often on people's top 10 lists of greatest movies of all time.
Mm-hmm.
And rightly so.
Yep, it is a film of extraordinary magnitude. Some people may get that reference, some won't. That's okay.
Yep.
For the ones who do, that's why I did it. Any final thoughts before we take a quick break?
Go see it if you haven't, which if you haven't, the hell rock have you been living under all your life? But, you know.
Right.
Yeah, Les, didn't you say pre-show that we're at least getting a local screening of this movie soon?
Yes, the Alamo Drafthouse will be showing in the Richardson location on the 31st of this month. A showing of The Wizard of Oz, and to me, I'm sold. I'm going to go see it.
That's pretty cool.
And they are not paying us to plug them, so, you know.
Yep.
It's true.
We just plug them because Les is a big fan of the place.
I am too.
There you go.
And I think it's on Amazon Prime.
Okay.
Probably.
Yep.
Hey, what isn't?
Right. If you've got the money.
All right. On that note, we are going to take a quick break, and we'll be back with our weekly picks. And we're back, and it's time for our weekly picks, and I lead off this week. So for my first choice, I'm going with a new book from Scout Comics. It's called Headless, and this takes place in Salem, Massachusetts, around 1987. And the town is in an uproar as two teenagers have been found brutally murdered. And evidence shows that it's the return of the Headless Horseman.
Ooh.
Now you also add in two strangers who are going to get involved in the middle of all this, and it sounds like a very interesting series. So it's going to be a mystery, a little horror, and all that good stuff. I'm in.
Yeah.
Definitely worth checking out.
Yep.
Yeah, I think I'm in on that one too.
Alrighty, Les, you're next.
My first choice comes from Dynamite Entertainment. In this book, The Death-Defying Devil, #1, you find that people are living in a ramshackle house called the Winslow House, and they're just trying to get by. But the Winslow House is located in a bad neighborhood. The people there are tormented by criminals until the death-defying devil shows up. But when the devil tries to step in, things get worse, and he finds himself trapped inside that house and being taken care of by the same people he was trying to save. This intrigues me because it is illustrated by Walter Giovanni and written by Gail Simone. So I'm kind of in on this one.
Yep,
It's cool.
totally.
Yep.
Gonna be fun.
Nice.
Mhm.
Yeah, it should be. Alrighty, Liz.
All right. For my first pick, I'm picking one from DC Inc. This was the series of books that they were putting out for, I guess, their young adult readers. This one's called Harley Quinn Breaking Glass, and it follows Harley, and when she's Harleen, she's kind of living on her own above this cabaret. Her parents are gone, they're split, so when the neighborhood starts changing and they want to change, this cabaret where she's living above, she kind of has to make a choice. Either she can join Poison Ivy, who's kind of wanting to make it a better place to live, or she can join the Joker, who plans to take Gotham down. So it's kind of the introduction to our younger readers of every choice you have. You always have a choice, but the choices you make sometimes affect your whole entire life. So this is one of those choices that could either be good for her or change her path, I'm really excited that they're doing this, kind of breaking the character down into the younger. This, of course, this is before she's Harley, so it's kind of neat to get a peek into that.
Sounds like an interesting take on the character.
Yeah.
I like that.
Alrighty, Mikey.
Okay, my first pick is from Dark Horse Comics, and this one is called Tommy Gun Wizards. This is issue #1, and I read the synopsis for this one, and I cannot imagine not reading this book, because this takes. We're all familiar with the Untouchables, right? Elliot Ness, Al Capone, all of that stuff. Well, let's turn that on its head by adding a drug into the system, which grants magical powers. Yeah, that's all I need. I'm there.
This was on my list. This actually was one of my choices that was going to be picked. So if you had not picked it, it would have been one of mine. So obviously, I'm in.
Yep.
And I'm with Thomas there. I was on my list also.
Come on, Liz. Jeez, why not?
I
Come
say
on.
we have to make lists.
I'm
Hey,
kidding.
Liz, the bad person.
I'm kidding. If you had spotted it before, it would have been on your list. We all know that. It's fine.
Yes, yeah.
I'm just jerking your chain.
We usually fight on our picks,
Sometimes it gets a little gruesome, Just a little.
Alrighty, it is my turn again. So for my second choice, it is a collection from DC Comics entitled Tales of the Batman, Jerry Conway, Volume 3. And this collects Batman 349 through 359 and Detective Comics 515 through 526. And, oh my god, the list of artists that are on these stories is incredible. Gene Colan, Don Newton, Tony DeZunga, Jose Luis Garcia Lopez, Kurt Swan, Irv Novick, Dan Jurgens, Pablo Marcos. I can go on, but some great stories. Conway. I think of his writing more associated with Justice League or Spider-Man, but he did a great run on Batman. Takes place during the 80s, and so even introduced Killer Croc, and this is actually going to be in this particular collection of stories. So definitely pick this up and go ahead and pick up the first 2 volumes while you're at it.
And there you go. All you Killer Croc fans out there. This is it right here.
I'm looking forward to that one also.
Alrighty, Les.
All right. For my second choice, kind of a lighter mood to this, The Complete Smilin' Ed Comics. This is by Fantico Enterprises and collects the entire comic run of Smilin' Ed. Smilin' Ed is a rodent, and it's just funny stuff. I've seen comics of Smiling Ed, but I have never collected them. And to me, it was just great, funny stuff that tickles the funny bone throughout the whole thing. So I'm going to promote it. Yes, find The Complete Smilin' Ed Comics collected.
Cool.
Well, who doesn't love funny comics? I mean, gosh.
That's where you get that name, comic.
Comic, exactly. Oh, sounds good to me.
Yep.
Alrighty, Liz.
All right. For my second pick, this is actually going to be an omnibus from Boom Studios. Or I guess I should tell you the name of the book, huh?
Yeah,
you could. Yeah.
Could help.
Just to help us along.
All right, how about I just throw out some hints and you guys tell me what it is?
Oh wow!
Is it bigger than a red box?
We're gonna play charades for Liz's second pick. Here we go.
12 issues. This is Clive Barker's New Testament. It will take all 12 issues and finally collect it into one place. So this story he co-wrote with Mark Miller, and I can't say the guy's name. His name's Jaime Jang, who does some of the most amazing, horrific, gory artwork I've ever seen. I think he also worked with Clive Barker on Hellraisers. Could be wrong on that one. But this tells the story of a guy who's out looking for something in the middle of the desert, and he unleashes the father, who calls himself Wick. And, at first Wick is kind of amused with us humans, and then after he gets kind of tired, gets bored.
Don't we all?
Right. So, what does he do? He tries to bring the apocalypse on. So, like I said, it's a really good story. I'm wanting to say it's been a little while since I've read this. This originally came out in 2013, but Wick goes after the man's son and his fiance, and I think that's who carries most of the story. So it's really good. It's kind of one of those, this is a full contained story, of course, since it's the omnibus, but it's kind of like, it's one of those you just have to have for your collection. It's a good story, and it's Clive Barker, so.
Hard to go wrong there.
It is, And anything he puts his hands to, it's a good horror story. And like I said, the artist that he chose for this, just not only are you given a good story, but the artwork tells a story all on its own. So definitely have to pick this one up.
Nice.
Very cool.
Yeah. Alrighty, Mikey.
Okay, I'm going dark again too. Oddly enough, we've got another Fantico Enterprises book in the list this week, and this is the fully authorized graphic novel adaptation of Night of the Living Dead. I, you know, I've got to be honest. I'm just really freaking curious to see what this looks like. It's going to be interesting, one way or the other. If nothing else, the cover that they've got here is just beautiful. I mean, okay, it's a bunch of zombies, but it's a
That could be beautiful.
beautiful representation of a bunch of zombies. Yeah, no, it's a really pretty cover, and I like the movie. I really do. So this is gonna be cool. I'm looking forward to a graphic novel adaptation of a movie like The Night of the Living Dead.
That would be pretty cool.
Yeah, should be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And our honorable mention this week is...
Okay, I get to shift gears real fast here. Okay, our honorable mention this week is from Sterling Publishing. And this, I would love to say we planned this, but we did not. It just worked out that way, probably because the whole anniversary thing and all. This is a graphic novel adaptation of L. Frank Baum's first book, The Wonderful Wizard of Oz. And this is another one that I think is just going to be a really cool adaptation. Because we didn't get too much into this, but there are some noticeable differences between the 39 movie and this book. I mean, the majority of it's there, and it's got the same kind of idea, it's kind of the same main story and all, but there are some differences, and it will be fun to see how much they stick with the book over the movie. It's also got a cool cover too, but
Didn't the book have like a totally different ending than the movie did, though? If I remember correctly.
it's been a long time since I read the book, but I believe there was some different stuff in the ending. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
it's been a long time since I read it.
Alrighty. Sounds good.
Yep, it does.
Any special shout outs or mentions this week?
Not me.
No.
Okay, we'll go ahead and do our regulars then. First off, I want to thank Pop Goes the Culture Podcast Network for allowing us to be a part of a great group of shows. We'll have a link in our show notes where you go check out some of our brethren. Thank you for your support as always. And we also want to thank the support of Podern Family, who's been with us almost from the get-go, Mikey? Pretty much.
From the get-go, yeah.
Supporting and retweeting our links every week. And we do appreciate that. We definitely want you to go check out their shows. And the easiest way to do that is when you're on Twitter, just do a search, #PodernFamily. And whatever catches your attention, just download that episode. There's the link right there in front of you. Thank you guys for your support as always. I also want to thank Manny the Martyr for allowing us to use their awesome music for our podcast. There'll be a link in the show notes for you to check out their music. They've got a couple EPs out. And then finally, you, dear listener, thank you for downloading and listening to today's episode. We always appreciate your support. We would love to hear from you. Any kind of feedback, comment, suggestion, question, complaint, observation, whatever. Please, we'd love to hear from you. There are several ways you can do that. Our email address is email@thefellowshipofthegeeks.net, or you can go to the website and click on the About Us page tab, and there is a contact form there that you can fill out. You can also contact us through Facebook, and by all means follow us there if you'd like to. And Obviously, we're on Twitter. You can contact us through there and follow us if you'd like. If you'd like to follow our personal Twitter, I guess I need to give you the Twitter account name, which is @Fellowship Geeks. And then if you'd like to follow our personal Twitter pages, by all means, Mike can be found @MikeyGeek. Liz can be found @LN_geek. And I can be found @TomTCGeek. And wherever you download our podcast from, if you would please take time to rate and review our show. That would be awesome. All right. Anything else before we say goodbye?
Just thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you for listening, my friends. I do appreciate your support as always. And until next time, geek on, my friends.
We thank you for listening to the show. Comments, suggestions, and questions can be sent to email@thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. You can follow us on Facebook @The Fellowship of the Geeks and on Twitter @Fellowship Geeks. Until next time,